Welcome, everybody, back to the Marine Corps Movie Minute. This is Billy and Perry, and today we got a special guest returning. We got Swede himself, Pete Koch.
Hey, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to speak with you again.
Yeah, absolutely. You're always welcome to come in and visit with us.
All right, you got it.
Coming back, second time, he's officially reached friend of the show status. So
Yeah.
thanks so much, Pete. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
We've reached minute 86. This is basically the minute full of the pit fight in the water between First Platoon and Recon Platoon. And of course, you're featured very heavily in throughout that minute. And so we had a couple of little good gags that we see here, especially with you and the rest of the Marines and I guess real life Marines. I assume were part of this.
Yes, indeed.
So I think I've heard you say in the past, maybe on a separate interview, like, well, actually, you said it to us too. This was like a heat wave during this time. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was really hot. It was like San Diego was kind of experiencing like a record heat during this time. So when we got around to this scene, had a chance to get in that water for a minute. It was it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I bet. Now, was there something? Did they have to ship water in for this because of the heat wave or whatever? Like it was drying out, or
Yeah, it was like a heat wave and a drought, and yeah, they had massive water trucks come in. By the time us actors got to the location, they were still putting water in. I'm sure that was something they had been doing all day because I think we started about midday. It was real hot, and yeah, so that mud pit was fortified water that they tanked in.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I have to imagine this is a fairly fun scene to film. Do you recall, was this kind of staged in any way, or was this kind of like get out there and start throwing each other around, have some fun with it?
It was staged, certainly, but there was a lot of impromptu. So the fight coordinator and Clint were very much prepared and had a vision of how that would go, and then they're communicating carefully with the first assistant director. I always tell people what the job of the first AD is to instruct and direct and coach everybody except the actors where the camera's like right on one or two people or whatever that scene is, but everything sort of around it is the responsibility of the first AD. And when you've got a big scene here with, I don't know, 50, 70 people, and that's like, I guess about 10, 12 actors and then 50 Marines that served as, and they were paid, they were our background extras, but they were the real deal. So that was great. And they're also very helpful for any of us actors that had questions along the way. So it was this very coordinated effort between all those parties, the stunt coordinator Clint, who's directing the scene, of course, and then the actors, and they just told us where they wanted to get in a position. And then there were other times, and Clint's got a bullhorn, because once they say action, you guys just start having at it. Let's get these battles going in the water. And then when they might run the camera for a minute or two, and it's just all hell breaking loose, but then he would get on the megaphone and say, "Hey, that's a cut. Let's shut it down." And then he would give us more instruction. And then as the fight scene moves on, the contestants, are eliminated. They come out of the water until it's down to two guys. And so there was a method there, and we just worked on it for hours, just to get that what we call coverage enough, shoot enough film so that Clint felt like he could edit together something that looked cool.
Well, no, did they have like a lot of costume changes, like when you get in and out of the water, or did they just.
Yeah, it's a really good question, right? Because you go in dry and then you get wet, and you're like, "Oh, what if we didn't?" That's why it's so important to answer your question. No, the short answer is no, and
Okay.
we knew that going in. I mean, and they made it clear, and that we didn't have any backup wardrobe stuff there, so it needed to be shot in order.
Ah, okay.
Of that, yeah, because it was a big deal. You make a good point, because once we got into the water, it was on. I mean, you couldn't come out and shoot anything, really make sense of anything, because you were going to be wet. Yeah, it's a good point. So it was shot in order.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, they did a good job of editing this together because it's actually it makes a lot of sense. You can follow the action. I picked this minute in particular partly because it's a fun scene.
Yeah.
You feature prominently in it because like you can see at one point you throw like 4 or 5 guys off of you. You're high fiving
Hmm.
Mike Gomez who plays Keones.
Yeah.
Which I had a question about that before I go any further. So that little high five between you guys, I assume that was something that was now set up. I think you kind of answered my question. It seems like a little bit of business that might have been, pre-stage, maybe shout because obviously you
Yeah.
throwing the guys off, and then that was like the follow up, the nice high five between you two.
Yeah, I think that was Mike's idea. He says, "Hey, at this point, we seem to be, fighting in right proximity. We ended up next to each other, and during one of the breaks in the action, he says, maybe." And this is really the fun of acting, because actors are, sort of always looking for what we call business, like something to do, something to do with your hands, something to do besides put your hands in your pocket or in
Yeah.
such a scene like this. I mean, like Brad Pitt famously is eating food in a lot of movies that he's in, but he's
Yeah.
not the only actor that does that. It gives you something to do, and the more you have something to do that's realistic, the easier it is to be authentic. Not that we were in this water looking for any kind of great authentic acting moments, but it's always nice to have some business to do that connects actors in a meaningful way. So the camaraderie of he and I giving each other a high five was kind of cool. I think that was Mike's idea.
Oh, that's cool.
That's a great little bit because that stood out to me, and then it made me focus on the minute some more. And like you said, I could see that you guys were in close proximity, and there was a little shot a little before that where it looked like you guys were working together and kind of fell over and were throwing some guys.
Well, teamwork.
Yeah, it was a neat payoff to not only see like you throw like 5 guys off of you, so it's like that's like a Hulk moment. It's like really cool, but then also the fact that you guys already had a minute of working together and like, oh, like, yay, that was awesome, high five. Because I noticed actually going back throughout the movie, there was minute 55 when you guys were in Combat Town, when Lieutenant Ring was leading Recon into Combat Town and Gunny started shooting at everybody. You and Mike Gomez took cover at the same time. And I was like, is this a little thing where they kind of setting up the big guy and the little guy kind of palling around, or was that just something with between actors? And it's kind of neat to know that you guys just kind of improv that in the heat of the
Yeah,
moment. Yeah.
yeah, no, it was that's interesting that you noticed that, but that we sort of characters connected in a couple of scenes, but that's just the way it worked out. Yeah.
Just overall, I think this is a funny minute between, especially like I knowing that we were asking you to come back on. Paid special attention. Like when you first get in the water, you could tell like you look really eager and excited to get. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. Yeah.
You went right to the deep end too, or the farthest in from the bank.
And of course, the moment where you're throwing the guys off, I brought it up a few times. The high five is a great moment, but then you're doing almost like a Stooges, like Mo with Curly and Larry, grabbing choking the guys out, but in a headlock and walking 2 guys out at once, which is a pretty funny moment. And then running back in, all excited to get another two. And I believe somebody suplexes you backwards, which was kind of. Was that another thing? Do you recall? Was that set up, or was that just something that kind of just happened?
That was set up. That was part of the stunt coordinator, and he said, "Let's." His idea was perfect. He says, "Let's make sure that this isn't just a cakewalk for Swede. Let's give him somebody." The guy they chose was one of our background Marines, and gosh, I'm at a loss for his name right now. But he also he was about the biggest guy that as part of that group that was with us every day as cast as one of the regular background guys, and he was also this unit's medic.
Oh, okay.
I think he was in the Navy. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
you would
Yep.
have been a Navy corpsman. Yep.
Yeah, he was a Navy corpsman, right? One of these super trained up guys. He was a corpsman and he had trained with special operators. He was an interesting guy, very, very, also very, very fit. And yeah, that was the guy they said, "Come on over here and see if you can get Pete off the ground."
That's a cool little thing, and I did notice that when you first go in that, just the whole everybody, there are a few big guys, maybe not as muscular or maybe not as tall, but there's not everybody's, average size. There's some big guys, so it makes sense they got somebody that could kind of take it to you, but they gave you a little props. It took like 4 guys to get you out.
Yeah.
Again, I like that little bit because where this ends up going, it's down to Stitch Jones.
Right.
In order to not make it be the Swede show that you would
Yeah.
assume, they had to justify you getting out. And actually when I got the minute now, I'm kind of watching as we're talking, and you like you attack a guy, but you also kind of stumble, and then that's when the guy suplexes you, and then they do you the service of at least giving you 4 guys to carry you out. Which is always funny too, because I like the look on your face is pretty funny. Like, I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, and it's just funny. It's a great scene. Right after or right before that, you could see. I'm not sure where this was filmed in the minute, but you could tell it's definitely an extra. It's definitely a real Marine, and he's just having the time of his life. He's got the biggest smile on his face.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine it was a lot of fun to kind of do this, even if it was a long day and I assume physically demanding though.
Indeed, it was, but it was also a scene that I think all the actors were looking forward to. That we had that on our schedule, and I was really interested to see what this mud pit really looked like. Because and how this scene would play out, and it was great. I think every guy was totally into it. I think we probably spent 6 or 8 hours shooting it, which is like hard to believe, but everything in the film business takes longer, than you
Yeah.
think it will. But everyone was really excited to shoot the scene, and Clint was all about it. And I always marvel at him because, he didn't have much to do in that scene until the very end, but he was directing, so he was extremely busy, that day, and he I think he made the scene look as cool as it could have been.
Really authentic because Perry and I, when we both were stationed in Pensacola, Florida for a while, and one of the things we did during our training unit for PT is we do something like this without the water. We call it like knockdown drag out or something like that.
Yeah.
You
Mm,
get out a football field and you basically split the platoon, the teams in half, and anything it took to get the other team across the center field, let's say,
mhm,
you did it. And we did also something called trash ball, which was any ball we had, 2 trash cans, put them in at the end of the, goalpost there. Anything you can to score and anything you can to keep them from getting in. And it got very physical, but it was very fun,
Yeah.
And
mhm.
it reminds me of this scene. So I do wonder what came first, the chicken or the egg, like
Yeah.
did somebody watch this movie and go, hey, this sounds like fun for PT, and not everybody has can truck in, water pits for us to do it, but we make it work.
Yeah, we used to do football wrestling with football, kind of similar to that, where you
Yeah,
had you had to try, and it got pretty, I won't say
in,
violent, but it got
intense.
pretty, yeah, yeah, it's fun stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
you try to dislodge or remove the football from the other guy.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
Yeah, sure.
Off those, those events where you pop a ball loose and you kind of scramble for it. Then it's like, well, okay, now you got it. How can you keep it?
yeah, yeah. Kill the man with the ball type thing.
Yeah,
That's legit football drills. Stripping the ball out is something that's worked on in practice every day. Those turnovers are so important. So yeah, it's good fun. It makes sense
yep,
that you can incorporate that into some military training. I like it.
Yeah, it gets you physical. It gets you, not afraid to take a hit.
yeah,
Not everybody's taking a hit. You're going to doing this stuff. So actually, you brought up football, and actually made me think of something, both in this scene and also the scene later. I mean, this is getting way later into the actual ending of the movie when you guys are fighting in Grenada. There's a couple times you take some you do some I'm up, you see me, I'm down kind of dives with you had the M60. Like, were you ever worried about getting injured during filming this because you had to go to training camp here shortly after filming? Was that ever on your mind, or was
Well,
it just like no?
I wasn't concerned that anything. I take it back. I mean, I was very alert, sort of conscious to the fact that something like rolling my ankle or something in those scenes that we were shooting in Vieques, that in Puerto Rico, that were doubling as Grenada.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we were in the real, sort of a jungle. It was no doubt. And then you got this weapon, and let's face it, like, my level of, comfort in the heat running with this weapon that's, look, it's not loaded, it's got a bunch of blanks on it, but you still got the weight of it. And
Hmm.
you want to be, every day I felt a bit more comfortable moving around with that weapon. But I'm a long shot. I never got to the point where I could just only imagine that it just takes quite a bit of time to get really familiarized and comfortable and feeling confident that you can run and move and do things with your weapon and keep yourself and everybody around you safe.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of training.
Consideration, right?
yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, and because us actors, we were just getting on the fly training. So yeah, I was definitely aware of that. I mean, for that matter, you can easily. There was a scene where I had to run, and they asked me to kind of do a like a Pete Rose head first slide with the
yeah.
gun. Like, what this? And my first concern was, yeah, and actually, I did this 4 or 5 times, but my concern was big heavy gun made out of metal, sharp edges, and your face, your hands, your arm, and there's anything could go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was acutely aware of that.
Yeah, and I know what scene you're talking about, and for what made it on the screen, on film, you don't hesitate, you don't hold back, you hit that ground hard. I mean, you take that dive, and it looks good.
Oh, thanks.
That weapon hitting the ground the wrong way and bouncing back up, and or your face hitting off of it,
Yeah.
that could have been
Yeah,
that could have hurt.
Yeah.
yeah, right. I
Yeah,
mean, definitely was. You really start to think,
Yeah.
I want.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
it all
the
worked out for
M16s
me.
are much lighter platform than that M60.
Is that M60 still in use?
No.
None anymore. No, they replaced it with a weapon called the 240 Golf, which it looks almost identical, but I think it's from what
It's
I understand, it's a little lighter.
I think it's a little smaller too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we got to practice with. It
Yeah.
was same idea. I think it's a little bit smaller. I think it's definitely lighter, but yeah, it's basically the same thing.
Okay, and it's improved.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Even the 240 Golf was plenty heavy.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually through doing this podcast, through just various social medias, and actually a couple guys I've actually got to chat with on some of your posts, Pete. I kind of was interacting. They were there at the time of shooting. Either they were. I found a guy that was in the rappelling scene, and he was one of the. He said they got paid $60 to go rappel for the day. You know,
Oh,
he's like 60 American dollars. He goes, and you can see me. You know, he's like I'm on the right. You know, and so I thought that was neat. And I talked to a guy that was he was on duty during the time where you guys were staged when they were doing the emergency preparedness drill, and everybody was staged on the flight line. You guys were on a bunch of bleachers, I think. He
yeah.
said he walked in. He was on duty. He wasn't actually part of the filming, but he was making his rounds, and he kind of made sure he got on camera.
Uh,
And so it's pretty neat, kind of trying to interact with some of the. I mean, it's great to get the filming perspective side of it, but I'm always curious of like how did these Marines get involved? And every once in a while, I find somebody that was there, and sometimes they were just said, sometimes they were told, "Hey, you're going to repel today, but you got paid to do it." And or this guy, he was like, "Hey, I just kind of made sure I went and visited my friend while they were filming." So it's
yeah,
kind of neat, yeah.
that is clever. I like the stories. People reach out to me from time to time through social media, and they'll say, "Yeah, I was at Camp Pendleton during that time. Or I remember watching you guys filming one afternoon." So stories. It's all about the stories.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, that's what Bill Murray said in Stripes too. It's like you're always going to lose the girl to guys like them because of the stories. It's the stories, man. uh, Perry, do you have much else? Any questions for Pete that we haven't kind of hit yet?
No, man.
I got one, but you got anything you want to hit?
No, man. It's been great having you back, and I'm fascinated just listening to the stories.
Yeah, there we go. This is stories, man.
So yeah, it's been really cool. Really appreciate you coming back. I know you're probably busy with doing other things and taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. It's been great.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's fun to reminisce about this film with guys that really appreciate it. It's nice. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
I think Perry said it best, but yeah, I just want to thank you too. Before we go though, I do have one quick question. You may know the answer to it, you may not. It's totally fine. We've been going back and forth in this movie, and we've had other guests on, and who are Marines as well, and we were trying to figure out Lieutenant Ring, played by Boyd Gaines. Do you know if he had silver bars or gold bars on? Do you have any recollection?
Oh,
And it's fine if you don't, because
oh. Well, I don't remember, like I don't see the color, but I remember the story. So what would be, is it the butter bars that are the entry level?
Yep.
yes,
Is that
the gold.
right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah,
I think that's where he was at. This was his very first assignment, just being a college guy, right? He comes straight
yeah,
out as an officer, and
yeah.
this was the first stop for him. That's my recollection.
Okay, that makes the most sense based
Yep.
on the way they portray him. We've debated back and forth because there's no clear. Literally in the same scene, it'll appear gold, and other times it'll appear silver, just depending on the
Ah,
lighting.
that's funny.
Yeah, and sometimes it'll be like the left one is gold and the right one is silver, and we're like, great, we can't. There's no literature to say it. Like let's say for IMDb, it's not First Lieutenant Ring, it's Lieutenant Ring. So we have to
I
kind of
see.
speculate. But the
Yeah.
way the way they play him, he's a boot ass lieutenant, and that makes sense that he's a butter bars, and it's official, everybody.
Ah,
We're gonna go with Pete. He's a butter bars, and
Yeah.
from now on, he's a second lieutenant butter bars. Boot
Yeah.
ass. Because it
Buddha's
makes
lieutenant.
oh,
yeah.
here's one of my Boyd Gaines stories for you to finish, because he's wonderful. He's a award-winning stage actor. We were like, what? Look at this guy. He was already a big shot on Broadway when he came and joined, our crew for Heartbreak Ridge. The glasses he wore were well, that was his idea, and that was perfect. When he got the script and he knew he was going to make the movie, and he just was envisioning his character. And these are the details that are be so great. He just did his homework and found sort of the standard issue, every AJ squared away version of glasses that you would have in the army. Bought a few pairs, and then showed up with them, threw them on, and he said to Clint, I was thinking about going with this look, and he said, love it. And it was off, and it was
Oh,
perfect.
yeah, that is perfect. Thanks for sharing that, because that we would have never. We just assumed it was just wardrobe. Like they look authentic as the birth control glasses that they give us, in similar to boot camp.
Yeah. Oh, and it
So
does
that
also kind of sell the innocent, like schoolboy kind of look. It's something simple. You wouldn't think about it. I mean, it's just a pair of glasses, but in the context of the character, it kind of sells it.
Agree, it does. It's so good. I remember all the actors trying to find. What's a unique thing is camo makeup, right?
Oh, yeah, the real stuff.
Yeah, that greasy stuff, and
yeah,
Yep.
and and there was a scene where we all were wearing it. They said, just put it on the way you see fit. I don't know, because we didn't have any instruction. But anytime you have a chance to kind of separate the way your character looks or moves or sounds, to distinguish if you think it's the truth, if it's truthful to that character, and or the way you wear your, what do they call it, a brush cover, you can stylize that just a little bit, you know. And everyone was looking to do that. I thought it was great. I mean, the military by its definition is going to make everybody like the same, the haircut and no facial hair and all these things that put everyone on the same level, except rank being a different issue. But then within that, I felt like it was fun to kind of find ways that you could, that's what actors are always looking to do, to separate the way your character, add characteristics, personalize the way that character does things to your truthful vision of how that's how that person would go through life.
Yeah.
It helps everybody stand out just a little bit, and like you said, because everybody's in green, everybody's wearing the same thing in this movie in particular. So it is neat to have little things to distinguish everybody. But yeah, we appreciate you sharing that story about Boy Gaines.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Got it.
I really don't have anything else. So, as far as the podcast is concerned, I want to thank Pete for coming back and talking with us. Joining Perry and I, talking some more Heartbreak Ridge. We can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to come in and discuss this with us. Pete, is there any plugs or anything, or anything you want to mention as far as where people can find you, where anything you want to endorse as far as anything you got going on or upcoming or promote? Please feel free.
Yeah. So no, I'm available. I love to connect with my fans. Facebook, I'm pretty full. I think I'm at my limit of friends there, but Instagram is good, and also LinkedIn. I've got a great connection with folks out there, and it's just Pete Koch, Petekoch, and yeah, just follow along, and I love to connect with fans of Heartbreak Ridge and military folks. I love this country, and we couldn't be as great a nation as we are without the military. So a strong military at that. So thank you for your service.
Well, thanks, Pete. Really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I really appreciate it.
Thanks for coming on again. Thanks for I'll just recommend everybody follow Pete on social media. We do that. I do that, and he's a good follow. Very very positive messages. I always appreciate that. We'll just ask everybody to come back. We'll hit the next minute, whatever that is, and we'll just go
Keep
from
it
there.
going. Yeah, let's do that. Just set me up, remind me of the scene, and see if I've got a. Hopefully, I've got a story about whatever you mentioned. All about the story.